Have I put you in the dark? Have I put you in the
No,
dark?
I'm okay.
Right, exactly.
The United States. Stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first order on our agenda is our first public comment section. And everyone has 3-minute period of time that they can speak. So if you'd like to comment at this time, you can raise your hand and Mary.
Yes.
Yes, hello.
Nice to see you guys again. I need about 30 seconds. This is in regards to the Pierce Road development. I know that's not on the agenda tonight, but I wanted to just make a statement as a matter of record. About 12 years ago, I came to this board and said, for sale sign went up on that property over there. Do I need to worry about that becoming residential? And I was told, I can remember the words. I can't imagine that property being anything but agricultural. So as a point of record, I just wanted I wanted somewhere down that I did come to this board a long time ago and say, this is a concern. So I don't know why I need to let you know that, but I need to do it. So there you go.
We understand wanting things on the record.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
It's probably on the record 12 years ago. but
Well, now it'll be twice.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate you understanding why I need to do that.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, Tom Tanner. I just want to go on record saying that my wife and I vehemently oppose the new pipeline coming through our backyard because they want to chop down all our trees and make a mess of things when I don't think it's necessary. And I think that hopefully the board will help us come to a good conclusion with them. So that's why we're here. Thank you.
And then there was a gentleman behind you. Hello.
They're kind of.
Coverage it.
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to be on record?
Sure.
Okay.
Be on record.
My wife Kathy and I feel the same way. And we feel like Consumers Energy kind of went about this in a very underhanded way. They have assured us over the years that this was a lift and light. Because we did have concerns about the damage it's going to do to our property. They're going to devastate the west side of our property. You're talking about 25 blue spruce trees, 20 feet tall. They're going to move thousands of yards of dirt from the adjacent property onto mine to store it. They claim they're going to put it back together. They offered me a ridiculous amount of money for the trees that they're going to destroy that I planted with my kids. They're also going to move my well that they didn't know about until I told them the well was there. So it's a big deal, and they have not kept the people in this township or any other township, as far as I can see, informed about what they're doing. So we need help from township to fight these folks.
And what was your name?
James Keller.
I thought so. We spoke on the phone. I remember
Yeah.
the blue spruce just hit my heart and then when we spoke the first time. So thank you, Mr. Keller. Okay. Yes. Hi.
And I'm Gary Galvin. I'm Jim's neighbor. Communication is probably the biggest problem that consumers has caused us to have. The lack of communication. Jim told me about it. Jim told me that they had come on and surveyed and put some new stakes in. I've got 25 acres that is going to be pretty much split right down the middle, but with the existing line and then the next line. Now, they have, every time they wanted to talk to us, they've called, they've made an appointment, they've been prompt, they've been courteous. When I saw the stakes run right next to 250, if the blue spruce make you feel bad, I've got a 250-year-old oak tree with a canopy of 120 feet. It's 16 and a half feet around at the trunk. And I said, man, what are you guys thinking? And today they came out and they said, Mr. Galvin, how's this look? And they ran a dog leg with this new proposed pipe around the tree. They're gonna move my fence, pay me for hay because my horses won't be on pasture. And I say they're gonna pay me for hay. We've talked about no money at all. I said, these are my concerns. They're trying to address my concerns. No, I don't want it, but we all know where consumers get their money from us. And we're all still on a fossil fuel energy system. Until we all go green, we're gonna need gas. You know, they aren't gonna turn off an 18-inch pipe running gas through it every day so that they can pull it out and put it in a bigger one, because it's gonna take a year or more. So you can see, we're gonna pay for it either way. We'll pay for it with higher energy costs. Everything consumers does, we pay for it anyhow. They have to make a profit. They want to make a profit for their stockholders. But anyhow, I'm now on the record, Gary Galvin. No, I'm not in favor of a new pipeline. I was aware of the old pipeline when I bought the property. So, like Jim said, we need help.
Heard. Any other public comments tonight? Right now, we do have another public comment section at the end, so. Okay. All right, thank you. It's important to hear from you, so. All right, so moving on with our agenda, we have this evening an introduction of our library representative, Susan Lackey. I feel like I should say you're new, but you're not new. It's just you came to us during the COVID time and we were doing remote meetings. We never had an opportunity to see face to face. So thanks for coming tonight.
And I just wanted an opportunity to thank the board for appointing me. It was a little bit of a, as you all know, a little bit of a tap dance because Jan Carr had represented the township so ably for so many years. And when she moved into the city, we were fortunate to be able to kind of do a little bit of switch and make that happen. And I'm very proud to be able to represent the township. I have business cards, and I will leave them here. There's some extra ones in case anybody ever wanders in. This is our question about the library.
Okay, great.
Don't hesitate to have them call me. And if there's ever anything that you have a question about, ever any thoughts about a place that you think the library can be of assistance, pick up the phone, call me, yell at me. Well, don't yell at me. I retired so people wouldn't yell at me anymore. But give me a call and we'll see if we can make it over. And thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your reports. Sometimes we don't do verbal reports. They're in here while we're reading them. Appreciate it.
I know that you get the board packet and the minutes and everything, so what I try to do in the report, and hopefully this is useful, is to sort of talk about some of those things that might not be, you know, they're buried in staff reports, or just come up in general conversation, things that, you know, are going on because you're in a building more often. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. And then we have another introduction on our agenda tonight. Larry Dahl has come on as our new cemetery sexton for Maple Grove Cemetery. And we're delighted that he's here, so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, be careful when you call the township office and ask a question.
We'll go unpunished.
And he's got the
Right.
kids, so he's the-
Yeah, I'm also the sexton for St. Mary Parish. Mount Olivet Cemetery. Which was what I was calling about, because we also have a cemetery on Bush Road in Southern Township, which I had found out doesn't belong to the church. I haven't gotten to that information. We're working on the type But anyway, so I was asked if I would be interested in working as sexton for the cemetery, and I said, yeah, I can do that. I kind of know what the deal is. I've also taken the manual records that have been kept and put them in a spreadsheet, so they're a little easier to search, really easy to keep track of. Fun fact, there are 273 approximately unsold lots. Maple Grove, probably a number more than that of unfilled lots, because a lot of sold lots obviously have occupied them. So that's about that. And if anyone has any questions whatsoever, or is interested in buying lots, or God forbid you need to place somebody in there, it does happen. Feel free to contact me.
Will you be doing any repairs in there as part of your roles and responsibilities? Or
I am going to, as soon as the weather kind of straightens out and the ground is not so soft that you just make holes everywhere you walk, I am going to start doing a little bit of cleaning up. Part of the purpose of being here tonight was just to observe the process for the lawn contract approval, which there is a spring cleanup involved in that. But during the course of the year, new grades are put in place. They settle and they need to be seeded. I could see looking around through the cemetery, there are some that need a little bit of additional topsoil, some more seeding, maybe a little fertilizer. So yeah, I'm going to be taking care of that.
because I'd be glad to help you.
Okay.
Fix some stones back up and get.
Okay, great. And, I just live down on Time Road, and I've got some equipment that I can throw over there too, to make things easier.
Wonderful. Thank you, Larry. And we're really excited. He's going to be handling the day-to-day. And then there's also that kind of big upfront task he talked a little about, which is digitizing our records. Alan Cole, funeral home in Chelsea, his son did an Eagle Scout project where he went through and photographed all the headstones. And we don't have the people here, the manpower to really maximize that effort that he made. So Larry is kind of working on that too. We're working on our new website. So I think here in a few months, it's really going to be fantastic to be able to go, maybe look at those things. So it's a big undertaking on the front end that you're sort of doing too with that data entry. So thank you. And that was the other thing you mentioned when you initially called, that you had done some data entry for St. Mary's, and that's also when we. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have the presentation from David Bloom here, Sylvan Township property owner. Us a little bit of what people alluded to in the public comment, public concerns with the Mid-Michigan Transmission Pipeline project. Maybe a couple lights. That would be great.
Ron, you can.
Oh, I let people.
That's about as sharp as it gets. Want to move the other side of the room, you can see them. Thank you for inviting me to present today. As Supervisor Kennedy said, I'm David Bloom. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in engineering. I've been in engineering for 20 years. Until 2020, I was adjunct at the University of Michigan, so I'm used to presenting a lot of information succinctly. And I've lived in Sylvan Township for 30 years. Anyway, I said it'd be succinct. That's important because we have a lot of information to cover in the next, say, you gave me 30, I'm going to take 20 minutes. And I want to save time at the end for the board to discuss and make a motion if called for. We'll be talking about the gas pipeline that runs through Sylvan Township. First, I'm going to cover some background, so we all know what we're talking about. And I'll talk about 9100A, the proposed pipeline replacement project. And then finally, I'll present 4 options for how you, our elected representatives, can proceed. And by the way, that picture was taken in my backyard. That is what Gary was talking about. That's a Lifton Lake. So Consumers Energy maintains a natural gas pipeline network in Michigan. Like the internet, there's lots of ways to get gas from point A to point B. Like a factory, it runs around the clock to deliver product. Line 100A, the pipe that runs through Gary and my property, it delivers 24 million cubic feet of gas an hour. During the summer months, that gas is going north. It's going from the Gulf states to storage fields up here at Muskegon Lake. And during the winter months, Muskegon Lake exhales all that gas back south to heat our homes. Anyway, line 100A is over 70 years old. It's 1/4 inch, 20 inch in diameter, 1/4 inch steel. It has multiple layers of protection against corrosion because when there's corrosion, bad things happen. And a bad thing happened a few miles north of here in Linden Township on May the 4th, 2015. Corrosion weakened the section of line 100A. At 10:30 p.m. that night, the weakened pipe failed. Line 100A's explosion was so loud, it could be heard in Stockbridge and in Chelsea. Luckily, this happened deep in the woods off North Territorial, far from people and buildings. Consumers Energy's crew were on the scene within hours. Line 100A was back up and running within a week. The pipe that failed was built in 1949. The original Big Dig was routed through woods and fields, far from people and buildings. But in the intervening years, the population in and around Chelsea has quadrupled along with Michigan's demand for natural gas. So it makes sense to fix the old pipe, since laying a new one would be an even bigger dig. After Linden Township's explosion, Consumers Energy sent an inspection robot of the pipe called a pig. The pig uses ultrasound to look for cracks and corrosion called anomalies, and it found lots of them. That summer, Consumers Energy dug up and replaced several sections of line 100A. Here's a shot of Consumers Energy crew replacing a section of pipe on my property in 2015. That lift and lay, they can use all the original engineering. It's fast, it's smart. Once the new pipe was welded and buried, the crew sent the pig back up the pipe and it found more anomalies. So they came back and they did it again, 2019, another lift and lay. After that, they sent the pig back up the pipe and they found that the repairs were not going to hold. So this track hoe, after it left my property, Consumers Energy representative said he'd be back and he'd be back to replace the whole pipe next time. The line 100A is a piece of aging infrastructure, which Consumers Energy has to decide whether to continue to pour money into old infrastructure, to replace it, or to simply abandon it. Well, demand for natural gas is flat or declining. That's a result of warmer winters, Michigan's net population loss, and advances in energy efficiency. But Michigan's unique geology makes it ideal for storing our nation's natural gas reserves. That's also a moneymaker for the utility. So Consumers Energy decides to replace the old pipe. It chooses the big dig option. It wants to do it quickly to save money. Out here in Sylvan Township, we are none the wiser. The big dig was decided in Jackson and in Lansing. We haven't got a clue what's coming. Consumers Energy surveyors and engineers fan out across 55 miles of real estate. They're gathering information for a $500 million project. They're also trespassing. Not on my yard, but on property owners that don't already have Consumers Energy easement on their deeds. The Consumers Energy easement described on my deed says the utility has free and unfettered access to a 66-foot wide strip. If I plant anything on it, Consumers Energy can come through and mow it down. And it does that every year as part of its maintenance process. So that land is basically lost to me. That's an acre that my wife and I technically own, but we can't use it. Now, we knew this going in. Like Gary, we bought land with an easement on it. We knew it was right there on the deed, but we had enough acreage left to build our home. For Sylvan Township property owners who do not have an easement on their deeds, Consumers Energy is supposed to inform them before sending surveyors out onto their property. And in 2018, the utility failed to do so. All that data was collected illegally, and it was used to draw plans to replace line 100A. Now you must be asking yourself, they're replacing the old pipe, lifted lake, all used the same engineering. Why do they have to survey off the easement? And that gets to why we're here. That gets to why I'm going through all this background. The word replace appears 95 times in Consumers Energy's application to the MPSC to approve its big dig. Yet surveyors were busy drawing up alternate routes. Why is that? Why risk trespassing? Why not just ask permission? Why all the secrecy? They already had easements on our deeds. Why wait 4 years to tell us their plans for our properties? We know there needs to be a big dig. Line 100A needs to be replaced. They said so 95 times. So why the big lie? Here. Here you go, Becky. Supervisor Kennedy, Township Board members, this big dig is not a replacement project. Consumers Energy is laying a new pipe across Sylvan Township under the guise of replacing the old pipe. The green line is the old pipe. The red line is the new pipe. In fact, they're not even going to turn off the old pipe. The utility says they're going to continue to use them both. This is a composite map that was taken from Consumers Energy's MPSC filings. Now, you'll notice there's a 7/8 of a mile gap in the map that Consumers Energy submitted to the MPSC. I filled it in with maps from the county clerk. The missing chunk includes Deerfield and Norfolk subdivisions. Line 100A runs right between them. Mind you, none of that appears in Consumers Energy's filings. This is the map that they're looking at. I'll give it all y'all. But it's not deception unless Consumers says one thing and does another. And of course, Consumers Energy hasn't told us anything. It never told you at the township, it never provided maps and plans and lists of the Sylvan Township property owners who would be impacted by the big dig. It never told you that the Mid-Michigan Pipeline Replacement Project is not really a replacement project at all. It applied to the MPSC without telling anybody. You'd have to be a real estate geek to even see their filing appear on the MPSC docket. It's a new pipe, not a replacement, no notification at all, and that, board members, is why we're here. 15 months later, MPSC orders Consumers Energy to replace line 100A from Chelsea to Ovid. The big dig is on. The Mid-Michigan Pipeline Replacement Project has gone from lie to law. The MPSC approves the map that the utility submitted. That's note 1 on this slide. Note 2, the MPSC sees fit to remind Consumers Energy to respect property owners' rights. And note 3 instructs Consumers Energy to keep the MPSC informed of its dealings with affected property owners. That's the MPSC's approval language, not the application language. 6 months later, Sylvan Township property owners receive our first notification about the big dig. The property owner letter does not say what the Mid-Michigan Pipeline Replacement Project is going to do to our properties, just that Consumers Energy needs to break ground in 2023. And you here at Sylvan Township Hall are still left in the dark, even though over 24 Sylvan Township property owners will be impacted. Consumers Energy representatives started negotiating with Sylvan Township property owners in February. Here is what I have personally experienced. A Consumers Energy representative told me that line 100A could not be shut down for a lift and leg replacement, that the utility needed to keep the gas flowing. When he saw me taking notes, he corrected himself and said, "You'd have to check on that." Shortly thereafter, he called back to say, yes, in fact, line 100A can be shut down. It can be shut down for months with the gas diverted to line 2200 and other pipes. A few weeks later, I sat in my neighbor's dining room and I watched another Consumers Energy threaten him in his own home. "If you don't accept this offer, we're just going to take your land under eminent domain and you won't get anything." Another neighbor was offered $1,600 to condemn an acre of his land. This is the kind of lowball offers that Sylvan Township property owners have been given on threat of virtual eviction from large swaths of their own property. None of this would be happening if Consumers Energy had approached Sylvan Township property owners in 2018, informed us of the trade-offs as MPSC ordered them to, and consulted with us to minimize the impact. Then 3 weeks ago, line 2200 blew up. March 24th, Livingston County, just south of town. That's the crater that it left. US 23 was closed for a day. It was messy. Line 2200 is the backup pipe, the primary, it's one of many backup pipes for line 100A. And it was back up and running a few days after the explosion. So let's take a look at those maps that I gave you. The proposed new pipeline, and we call it a proposed new pipeline. There's no will. There's a would. It would not be a lift and lay as MPSC ordered, but a brand new pipe laid side by side with the old one. Rather than work with the easements they've got, Consumers Energy's plan would mean widening every established easement and taking out new easements on properties that it previously had no rights to. Here's a couple examples. Line 108 currently runs through Commerce Park. That's the area south of Chelsea with 2 hotels, office buildings behind Taco Bell, just off M52. Consumers Energy does not want to dig there. Instead, it proposes to run a new pipe west along its established line 1200 easement, that's the blue line, and then dogleg north to rejoin 100A behind Kernwood Drive. This reroute means that Larry Gotcher cannot develop this 30-acre property into multi-unit housing. Consumers Energy must think it's cheaper to bully or buy out Mr. Gotcher than to dig up Commerce Park. A lawyer who has faced consumers in court told me the following, and I quote, "Consumers appears to me to be much more willing to try and stretch the law and litigate vigorously about whether it can implement its projects as it sees fit than other utilities. I've heard attorneys for other utilities mock arguments actively made by consumers to justify its takings. Consumers' attorneys compare it to a holy war." Unquote. Next, you have the Cleantus reroute. If you're not doing a lift and lay, if you're running a second pipe adjacent to the first pipe, then you have to figure out whether the proposed new pipe should be laid east of the old pipe or west of the old pipe. Consumers answer, east. If it were laid west, it would run right through Mr. Cleantus' living room. Mr. Cleantus is not happy with the prospect of 2 easements carving up his property on Bush Road. And then you got my house. A parallel pipe east of the original would run through my living room. So Consumers Energy planners decided, like they decided to route around Gary's oak tree, to route around my house, to route through Andy Ford's property. Consumers Energy offered Mr. Ford $11,000 for an acre of his forest and $3,225 for hundreds of his trees that he had planted with his own hands. This is a clear violation of the highest and best use principle, the HBU principle, one of the most basic tenets of real estate assessment. Here's how HBU works. If I want to plant crops in Midtown Manhattan, I can't declare it a farm. New York still assesses the property as if it were commercial real estate, its highest and best use, and it taxes accordingly. So just compensation for a confiscated tree is not its timber value. It's not its firewood value. It's not its pulpwood value. It's the highest and best use of the tree, which is for shade and enjoyment, for trails and hammocks and bird watching in the spring and colors in the fall. Mature trees are expensive if you can even buy one. That $3,225 that Consumers Energy offered Mr. Ford as just compensation for his forest is about 100 times too low. This is not bullying. This is elder abuse. Andy Ford is an 86-year-old widower living alone. Also, just compensation for an acre of Sylvan Township land is not $11,000. That's absurd. Sylvan Township has minimum lot sizes, lot prices are over 100 grand if you can find one. Consumers Energy's lowball offer for Mr. Ford's land is also 10 times too low. If I sound short. Sylvan Township property owners are being mistreated by Consumers Energy, and that is not why I'm here. That's why they're here. I'm here because Sylvan Township, you, our representatives, are also being mistreated. The difference is you can do something about it. Trustee Kosick is a Consumers Energy retiree. He helped me prepare this presentation, Leslie. Thank you, Trustee Kosick. We talked about the different controlling documents at play here from the township standpoint. And Trustee Kosick felt that we should look at the Consumers Energy franchise agreement. Now, Supervisor Kennedy, you previously advised me to look at the township's code of ordinances. That's the franchise agreement. The code of ordinances talks about what utilities can and can't do in Sylvan Township. While the franchise agreement lets utilities sell electricity to gas and electricity and gas to Sylvan Township residents. So Trustee Kosick is actually correct that the consumers is probably more interested in this franchise agreement That's important for them to do business. That's a controlling document for them to do business here. But the code of ordinances is the controlling document that talks about easements and utility infrastructure. I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but my layman's reading of the code of ordinances finds that Consumers Energy is in violation of 3 of them. First, I think we can all agree that when the controlling document says utility structures, that's the big thing. That's the part. Article 2623B says that Consumers Energy has to pull a permit prior to acquiring property or easements for a future utility structure in Sylvan Township. Article 2623D goes on to say that Consumers Energy has to advise you on the township board in writing 90 days before doing so. And Article 2623E says, and I'm quoting here, that any new pipe should be placed in parallel alignment in utility corridors with existing utility structures or co-located on existing utility structures. The MPSC order said pretty much the same thing.
And that's from a general ordinance. That's from the
That's
general
the one you
utilities,
sent.
right?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
So to give it some teeth, the Township Code of Ordinances demands that utilities that fail to comply shall not build. Our Township Code of Ordinances enforces penalties on violators and it allows the township to recover its costs to ensure compliance. This leaves you, the township leaders, with 4 options. You can certainly take Consumers Energy side and help them beat a swap through our township. I'm not going to. You can stay neutral. Don't take sides. Not my service, not my monkeys. I don't think you're going to do that either. You can side with Sylvan Township property owners passively. That would entail looking into the matter but not enforcing our code of ordinances. Or you can actively take sides and enforce our code of ordinances against the utility that has little regard for Sylvan Township property owners. So if you choose option 4, as I hope you will do, you'll refer the matter to your township attorney. And if he concurs that Consumers Energy failed to apply for a permit prior to negotiating with Sylvan Township property owners, if he concurs that Consumers Energy failed to advise you, our township board, 90 days in advance, and if he concurs that Consumers Energy failed to route its pipe in parallel alignment with the old one, then you'll order Consumers Energy to stop bullying Sylvan Township property owners out of their own land in accordance with section 2829. You'll fine Consumers Energy per section 2630 and you'll attach your fees per section 2631. You'll do what few townships have ever done. You'll stop the big deal. I'm aware that this is a big ask. It's a big ask. And Supervisor Kennedy for granting me 30 minutes after 20. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration. Trustees Kosick and Schultze, Clerk Ballard, Treasurer Branham. And now yield a reminder of my time so that we can discuss and hopefully make a motion to support the Sylvan Township property owners impacted by that big deal. Right, everybody.
But before we move on to anything else, I want to say that I'm wearing sunglasses because I recently had cataract surgery
Oh,
and my pupils are not getting small, they're dilated. And like the lights in here are awful. Today was a beautiful day. It was a terrible day, I mean, because they don't contract yet. Apparently it takes a while for that to happen. So there's a reason that I have it. And then when I take them off, I can't read anything. I have to put these readers on that I got at the dollar store while I wait for my eyes to.
Sandy, it's a good book. Love it.
Ah.
All right, well, thank you very much for that presentation.
I will send you the presentation and the notes. You'll have that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And, you know, it's a very compelling, you know, situation. And I see myself in all of you. If this was my home, well, you know, I have a couple acres. So if they come through and it's on a, you know, they could render for a good portion of my property, you know, useless or not useless, but I wouldn't be able to use it for the things that I want to use it for. So we appreciate you guys coming to us. I want to say that I talked to consumers. I wrote to consumers after David talked to me. You know, we do have under ordinances, we have a general utilities ordinance, and then we have the consumer's energy franchise, which is also on our muni code. It's all in our ordinances. And I talked with our attorney about it. And I was trying not to bombard him with too much information. I sent him, you know, I think David, the original email you sent me with the maps. And we were asking him because the general utilities ordinance has that information, like David was saying, where they're required to notify us. You know, we can penalize them if they're not. So our question was, which sits over the other one? Does the consumer's franchise supersede the utilities ordinance where they maybe don't have to do the things? Or does the utility ordinance sit on top of this and then this is the franchise agreement as well? So we wanted to get guidance from our attorney on that. And boy, I kind of wish I would have had a Zoom in tonight to hear your whole story, because I hope I got the gist of it to him. So he was looking at that. And, you know, I want to real time to anyone here. But I think from advice from our attorney, perhaps what we could do as a board is ask consumers to follow the general utilities ordinance. I have written to them, I think it was Stacy Yimkoff, she's the real estate, yeah. So I've written to her. And she went through it. She probably told a lot of you, and we sent notices prior to the, you know, Public Service Commission thing, which would have been a long time ago, I think at this point. And we don't believe we have to do any further time. So I think we can ask them, will you honor our general utilities ordinance? And if they say no, then we will go back to our attorney because they will have a reason to say, we're not going to, and this is why. And then our attorney can maybe engage further with us and say, that's not good enough, or, you know, have a legal discussion with them because, you know, it's a bit of a David versus Goliath thing. You know, I don't want to say anything wrong. We have power as, you know, residents. So, but we want to make sure that we're operating, you know, within our authority. But we wanted whatever ordinances we have at our disposal, we want to use to support fair treatment of the residents. That's why the ordinance is there. So, I'll just ramble a little to anybody else want to jump in and.
I think the regulated utility jurisdictions.
Right. So, you know, we can ask them if they'll do it. If they won't, then, you know, our attorney is ready to hear from their attorneys why they're not willing to do that. And I think maybe that's the best place for us to go right now, because that's where those consequences lie for them, for having not noticed people, which of course they say they did. And, you know, it's hard to, it's difficult, but if we can ask them, and if they will be willing to, then we have something to talk about. And if they won't, then we have something to talk about too. But I think right now that's maybe the best thing that the board can do, and we have support from our attorney to, you know, ask that and push back on consumers and ask if they'll honor the general utilities ordinance. There's an opportunity, and like I say, there's a chance they could say no, and we don't believe they need to because X, Y, and Z. But at least if the lawyers say that, then our lawyers have something to, you know, kind of go off of too. So, any more input? All right.
So I come in during the review and I have a discussion.
Okay. You can do that. I would be willing to, I was unsure if you're willing to make a motion now that we ask consumers to abide by our general utilities ordinance. You know, it's, I was unsure whether we should put the motion for this under new business. I don't want to make you guys hang around for a whole meeting if you didn't necessarily intend to, but yeah, I feel like that's something that we could ask. And it doesn't cost anything to ask, and it's something that we could do now as opposed to next month.
So making a motion to send a letter to them, or it's gonna help you write that letter.
Mhm.
Oh, that sounds good.
Okay,
And we are asking them to comply with the orders.
we're asking you to comply with their general utilities limits, because they're correct, because that's where we're getting feedback from the residents that they have not followed that ordinance. And I don't believe now, you know, there have been lots of people sitting in this seat over the past 3 years. So at one point, I actually asked, you know, I said to Stephanie Black, who's our the PR person for this area, I wonder if the list had been sent to the supervisor previous to me, or previous, and I believe she said there was never an address list sent to supervisor. So I can look sure, make sure I have that email, but I, you know, yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like from you guys that you felt like you were properly.
Well, they would be able to provide an affidavit of safety. They would have to provide that. So if they did,
We should have something.
we have to provide that.
Yeah.
For example.
Township supervisor, Shelburne Township supervisor is on the board. I have it there.
Oh, okay.
But none of them for food.
I haven't found anyone yet that received that notice.
So the supervisor, like a snail mail, like physical mail here
I
to
have
this
a list
address?
of every name
Okay.
that I have an affidavit from Consumers Energy that the list was mailed September 26, 2019 at the United States Post Office in the city of Dallas. And the Renton Township supervisors on it, Sullivan Township supervisors on it, Manchester Township supervisors on it. Those are the ones that I look for,
Yeah,
because I went through the minutes of all the meetings in October of 19. The
yeah.
correspondence is never mentioned in any of the minutes, in any of those township meetings. None. And I haven't found a person yet on that list that I've spoken to, myself included, that received this notice. I have it, I'll leave it with you.
I'll make a copy of your scan. Give your copy.
Because they swear proof of service
Mhm,
that they mailed this list.
mhm.
And it's a 4-page list. I didn't bring it with me. I have it.
Yeah,
I got it from the MPSC. There are hundreds of residents in probably another 100 cities, townships, villages that are listed on that notice. That
Yeah.
supposedly got first-class mail from consumer. Yes, you're on. Who's on?
Wouldn't you think you'd send out a certified letter?
You'd think so.
If you were sending out a notice of.
right, that was important that you knew they received
First
it
step of
because,
eminent domain, that you weren't trying to.
right, that would be a smart thing to do.
The only
Could have
thing,
saved them a lot of money and time.
we received a pamphlet in the mail that addressed the Mid-Michigan Pipeline Replacement Project. They emphasized in the pamphlet that phase 1 had to be completed before the winter. Assuming that they were going to put part of it in and then somehow reroute or use the old one. The pamphlet is so deceptive. You would think that they're gonna do a lift and light. And this is what we were told.
Right.
And I've been told by the consumer's rep that's been to my property twice in the past 3 weeks that it was a lift and lay in 2016. It was a lift and lay. Something changed in 18, and they decided to install a new pipe and keep this pipe that is so dangerous in operation. Not only do they want to put a new pipe in, but the dangerous pipe is going to keep shoving gas up north and bring it back down south.
And in some places right next to the new pipe. That seems
Exactly.
extra dangerous.
For the majority of the truck next to it.
Yeah,
30
right.
feet in our backyard.
And they're doubling the size of the
I
pipe.
remember that part
It's
too.
20 to 30 cents.
Yeah,
It's 30 foot off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's parallel, but it's 30 foot, it's the width of the
I
road.
mean, you saw the hole.
Saw the crater.
Away from,
Yeah.
That's not
away
gonna
from the
help.
other pipe.
wow.
Now, if the other pipe blows up, it's gonna cause a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially for our neighbors.
That pipe is within 100 feet of my house.
Do we know for sure that they're keeping the old pipe?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, wait, no, your question is the right one. Folks who've been lying to us told us something? We don't know. The answer is we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, I was thinking maybe we could add this to the end of the agenda, maybe we can formalize it there, but I just to, to summarize this for us, like, I would be willing to make a motion to, send a letter to consumers asking them to comply with our general utilities ordinance. I'll put the word demand in there, demand that they apply, comply with that and see what happens. I will support that. Support that, okay. Board, do you guys want to vote on this now or vote on this, add it to the agenda as a new business item and vote?
We do it now.
Okay. All right, got that motion then, so that was motion by me, supported by Amanda. Sure, I will move that we, the Sylvan Township, send communication to consumers energy demanding they comply with our general utilities ordinance.
Who's it gonna go to?
Well, at this point, I have a few different people to contact, I think if I've got the real estate acquisition person, our PR person. Initially, when I talked to consumers, they offered to come out and have a meeting. Because I thought, well, if we can do a lot, maybe we could be a bridge for communication in some way. And so they said, well, we come out for a meeting. I said, I don't know if we're ready for that yet. I think there was a project manager mentioned in one of the emails. So I think there's enough people, if I put those 2 or 3, they'll get that to the right individual.
What's the CEO?
Is that an easy email address to find? CEO@CMS.
I don't know if it's that easy, but yeah.
All right, well, we'll do that too. I mean, I'm not opposed to putting, everybody and their brother on there over there, just so that we can make sure it doesn't.
You're the CEO of Sylvan Township. Send it to the CEO. He's your peer.
I think making sure that you send it to a lot of people, that everybody's hearing the same story, and that eventually you're gonna hit the person who can make the decision.
I'm sure. So I think I'll do all of those things. I mean, I can send it to the CEO, I can send it to our PR person, Stephanie, that comes out, send it to the real estate acquisition, Stacy. And then I'll look again and see if I can find that project manager name and throw them on there too. And if any of you have
Certified letter,
contacts.
right?
Again,
A certified letter, right, they have to sign for.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be the way to go to make sure that it's received.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Okay, so that was the motion, but made by me, supported by Clerk Nikki Ballard. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, motion carries. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight and thanks for bringing your concerns forward. And this is community. This is what it's about. This is how it happens. And we're elected to support you and we are you. You're just elected us to represent you. So we want to make sure that, you know, if we can amplify your voices or put any teeth into it, we want to do that. So thank you. I'm sorry you're all going through this. It's,
Well, and we talk about not being notified and also the bully end of it. That's what we received, was the bully end of it. You know, we didn't know the magnitude until the rest of our community looped us in. And when we contacted the project leader from Consumer, and he started out really nice, oh, I'm in your neighborhood. It was like 7 o'clock and I'm right around the corner and
Parked outside looking in your house.
yeah, so he literally came to our door, which we knew he was. He came in, he was being nice, and when we started to push back and say, you know, you have to contact, you can't just have people coming on our property, because that's what is going on, or was, we're on Deerfield, and then he started getting very angry with us and said they had every right to come on our property anytime they wanted. He was trying to shove a document for us to sign to alter easements, and we did our homework with that, had every easement for our property. He showed up with an easement that
We don't
was
have
not
any notice of it.
in our documents,
None of our
nothing.
documents, so.
And we called the title company, they went through, no. So he showed up with this easement that
Right, and that's
was not,
part of the blank on David's map, but that's part of that big blank that they have. So maybe that's why.
and yeah, so he ended up getting really angry with us, and he walked out of our house, and you could have heard a pin drop, and we thought, this is our home, our property. He came to our home, treated us like that. He was just angry. He was trying to give us $2,500, sign this, and we're like, and yeah, I mean, our back, if we go from Camel Lake Road, I don't know how many feet north, but it's taking out. And, oh, and I said to him, something about the trees. He said they had to, I said, what do you guys do if you take out all these 100-year-old trees? What do you guys do? And he said, well, you'll get something for them or whatever. And I said, and I just kind of looked at him, he goes, you think you're getting $10,000 a tree? I go, no, we want nothing. We want our property, and we don't want money, but he acted, it was a very bullying situation. And we said we would have cooperated in our backyard. He could have come, they could have come, you know, in our backyard, and why couldn't we have some involvement? And he said it was not our choice, that it was up to them to determine where it would run through our backyard. Because we have a lot of room that's blank space that they could have, you know, accomplished what they're trying to. But instead, we're losing our whole tree line.
Can you call his name? Is it
Irwin.
Irwin's no longer on the project.
Yes, and then all of a sudden,
You got Jeff now.
Well, then the new guy, I went to
Jeff
high school
Connor.
with, so I said, I'm not dealing with you, you deal with my wife.
yeah, and he's the peacemaker. God bless him for being the peacemaker, but he was getting taken and, you know, kind of pushed, and I was like, you know, we want to be cooperative, but
yeah.
it has to be a two-way, and it has not.
Well, yeah, thank you again, and thank you. Someone has done an impressive amount of organizing on this. I'm looking at you, David, I know it was. And so, I mean, and that's a big feat, because
It is.
individually, we're all sort of, you were saying, you're kind of on your island, but when you can talk to your neighbors and really put it together as a piece, like, that's really powerful. I'm really proud of you guys for doing that. That's outstanding. So 71 houses. That'll be on the next month's agenda, so. All right, well, we have made the motion there, so we will keep you informed, or you're welcome to take one of my business cards or any of it, really any of our business cards and contact me and find out what's going on, maybe talk with David and we can communicate through there, but.
You're just so brave and we're so grateful.
Yes.
Wow,
Thank you.
that's a little bit we can do, so we'll try. Okay, all righty, well then, we will move on. We will have another public comment section at the end, but next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from March 1st, bills, correspondence, committee reports, board reports, and department reports.
I will move to approve consent.
I was second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Next, we will have the approval of the regular agenda.
I'll move to approve the regular agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. So our first item of unfinished business is national flood insurance. Boy, I really feel like I brought this to the agenda way too early, so this has been a really big for me, you guys. I'm like, we're gonna do this, and then there's been so much work on the back end. But I did take the sample ordinance and resolution, and that I was provided, that everybody agreed, Mr. Thal and the advisor from the state agreed that would be the best one for us to use. So I plugged in Sylvan Township and a couple other words on one of the resolution of the ordinance. At the top of page 2, it had some information there that I did not know what to put. So I have sent this to Mr. Thal. He would look at it for us anyway and see if he can provide guidance on that. So unfortunately, at this time, I don't have a document for us to approve. But I imagine next month, hopefully we will have heard from Thal by then on this. I can prioritize it now that we've got some other things taken out of the way. And these will be the documents that we would be looking at. So if nothing else, this will just give you a preview of what will be coming, other than the portion at the top of page 2 on the ordinance that we would have to put in there. And I have the maps. We have the maps for the floodplains here, if anybody wanted to look at it, where that would be. It runs along Letts Creek, kind of by the railroad, and then oddly, when Pierce Road comes up, it almost stops at Pierce Road. The floodplain does not like continue over, which is kind of interesting. So if you want to look at them, if at home you can go, if you know how to go to the Washtenaw County website, they have a mapping and you can go there and look at them. They have everything. It's so fantastic. The GIS mapping, you can add layers, and one of the layers is the floodplain. Is that where you got that from? Yeah. So you can look at it at home, but I also have the physical maps here if anybody's interested. But that would just be, so I will make a motion to table. Sadly, table this item for another.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Did you say up to the railroad? So you thought it's south of the railroad?
Yes, right. Yep, we're south of the railroad, kind of along Letts Creek there.
Okay.
And from over to by Chelsea, like the whole floodplain, you know, it kind of goes, it flows down through there.
So, you
So,
know, my property runs a length of the floodplain from Bill's backyard to Sibley Road, right through.
oh,
So, I mean, that's flooded right now.
yeah. Well, and this is, we got a notice from the federal government. I think they were going through and doing like an audit. They were like, hey, you aren't in our floodplain program. And so what this means is if a resident wants to get flood insurance, but you're not in the floodplain, they can't get that insurance. And so, we talked about it with the attorney, and it just sort of seemed like there was really no downside to it.
Right.
So we were just like, well, let's just do this. So hopefully you haven't needed insurance. for-
I'm on a pretty good note, but
Okay, well, good.
if it gets up to us, this way.
We've got bigger problems. Okay, duly noted. All right, so any discussion on the floodplain, the motion to table? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Updated fee schedule. That's the same way. I'm gonna have a motion to table that.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. None, motion carries. Next, unfinished business is technology to allow virtual group viewing of the township in-person meetings. So just for a little background, we are trying to make this a better experience for everyone, whether you're home, whether you're here. These microphones, we have to be about 4 inches away to speak into them. There's a lot of new technology out there. We want to get maybe cameras so that, you know, people at home can see the public speaker, can see us. Right now, we have the laptop set up and it's very difficult. So we're hoping to use some American Rescue Plan funds, which are funds we got, COVID relief funds. They were distributed and our attorney has told us this is one thing we can use those funds for. So updating and upgrading our office for post-COVID for these times. So we have some money and I know Amanda has been doing a lot of work on this. So thanks, Amanda, for reaching out to people. We had one quote from
Health systems initially.
Health Systems, that's correct. And then I know you had another group come last week.
Right.
Okay.
Which they gave us a scope of work without itemizing.
You guys can say that very thing that we asked her specifically that.
And I just got this at
Tonight.
4:30,
4:30, right,
so I haven't even had time to follow up with her. So
okay.
I'll need to do that, and I'll have to get that clarification.
But this looks like you asked the same of Health Systems and they did, because this looks like the
They,
itemized.
after,
Yeah.
they sent that to me after. Initially,
Okay.
they sent something similar.
Right, initially they had sent just everything. So we have a couple quotes now to look through. And I know I heard of another individual who lives in the area who might be able to help. And I think we've got some. Mr. Russell was helping a little bit. I see him here. They're help us to decipher, you know, what some of these things are. So.
You know, and initially, as we talked about, this is much higher than we initially anticipated, but we weren't looking to upgrade the entire audio and visual system of the room. And I think that we need to do that.
Since this building was erected in 1999, this is the finest that you could get in 1999. And it's going to cost us some money to bring it up a couple of decades. And we need to spend it because then it'll last.
So I will make a motion to table. Technology to leverage for viewing of township in-person meetings. We need to review the second quote and
I'll second.
have some more itemized costs.
All right, motion to table by Nikki Ballard, supported by Branham. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Infrastructure Alternatives Contract Renewal. So we had sent this to Mr. Paul. He had a couple items that he redlined, something that he wanted to include from a contract with IA from a different area, a different municipality he works for. And it was something that IA had agreed to for that municipality, so we felt like it would be something we would agree to with us. But I just got the red line notice from Mr. Thal Thursday, I think, and we sent it to IA. I haven't heard back from them. So, but Infrastructure Alternatives is our water plant operators, and their current contract expired in February. So they have been graciously working with us while we're waiting to get this new contract looked at. Since our attorney has looked at it and made his recommendations, I think it probably would be prudent for us, and maybe this will be my motion, is to approve the proposed contract pending IA's agreement to Mr. Thal's revisions to their contract.
I would-
Because I feel like we don't want to push the operating without a contract very much longer. And unfortunately, the speed of government, if we don't do it now, it'll be another month before they have the opportunity to do it. So I would be comfortable with that. Bob Skull, sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh.
Would you?
If there's any specific questions regarding the contract, I can just, but I think we should, the increase is about $1,500 a month. But for that, we're getting 24 hours extra operation on site, which works out, I think is a pretty good offer. The price went up, but we also lowered the overtime to compensate because we're not having 24 more hours a month. So basically a wash from last year.
In our last contract, it was like 32 hours or something like that, and
34
then
hours.
34 hours. And then sometimes we would get bills for overtime because there were things they couldn't do within that 34 hours. So hopefully by expanding it to 40, like you're
Correct.
saying, we'll cut down on those overtime because that's a higher hourly rate.
The only question I had was the existing contract really should have something in there that says, upon the end of the contract, it'll go month to month until the new one's negotiated. Is there anything in there like that? Because when we
No.
say we're operating and we're out of, we have no contract to cover.
Correct.
I mean, that's not a good situation, so.
No. And
next
that was one
contract.
of Mr. Thal's recommendations. In fact, it was, he had a couple items he wanted to change, and then he said that he'd spoken to you and he felt like having that put in there that it would, if the contract expired, it would be an end of the month-to-month situation. So that was one of the things. that-
Okay, good.
so, yeah,
Thank you.
glad you brought that up. Okay. So, what's that? Yeah, for sure. So I made the motion to approve the IA contract pending IA's agreement to Attorney Thal's revisions. Rod supported. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. So new business, contract for online payment of services. This has been something new that we wanted to do and engage Point and Pay specifically as someone who would be helping us make financial transactions through either by check or by credit card. And right now, we are only going to be offering this service for like zoning fees and things, not everything, not taxes right now, but other things that people pay to the township. So we looked at a couple different contractors, a couple different places, and had some advice from our website company, and they work with Point and Pay a lot. They really seem like they're the leaders in this area for this type of transactions. So we have this, there's a contract and then an application also. And we sent this to Attorney Thal. We keep that guy so busy. We sent it to Attorney Thal and he got back to me today on it. And he has said that the overall agreement applications look fine. He has a question about a section on chargebacks and returns. And he feels like someone should ask this from Point and Pay. So, and the chargeback and returns, unless otherwise specified in the client application and without limiting any of the rights it may have, P&P will set off A, the amount of any chargebacks, refusals to pay, and returns from any amounts otherwise owing to P&P the client. And B, a transaction handling fee for chargebacks and non-sufficient funds as specified in the client application.
And I know you and I discussed this, and we're not entirely sure what that means, so I think I will send that to Point and Pay, get a response, and then we'll send it to Thal.
Okay,
But we need him.
I can't get what I.
Yeah.
Okay, which is what?
Like a chargeback, I take credit cards and my business, and say you go and buy a new bicycle. And you bring that bicycle home, and the frame is cracked. You call them and say, I'm bringing this back, and they won't accept it. Then they file a dispute with the credit card, which they would then win, they would get the refund and the credit card would be charged back. The credit card.
So, and which Rod and I were saying, when you think about for the transactions the township's gonna be handling, it's unlikely someone's gonna pay money for a zoning, to get their fence and then call their credit card company and say, I'm mad about this. I don't really see that, but it's a possibility. It's in their contract. So if he's concerned about it, I
I'll
agree.
get clarification.
Fantastic. So then do we want to,
I know.
it's a little
Because I would
painful.
love to have you be able to sign this
This
contract this
contract.
month with that approval,
I know.
so we can make a motion pending that approval.
I feel like if it's different a little bit than like the contract with IA because we're sending them something specific and they'll say yay or nay. And here it's a little more nebulous. It's kind of like we have a question, we're not really sure. So I know we would really love to. I don't want to, but if you're willing to ask the question to CCS, I think that's probably prudent. We want to make sure. We're anxious to get this going for people, but we'll make sure we do it right. So
Are you making a motion to table?
I will make a motion to table.
I will second.
All right, any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. What's that?
The next one gets done.
The next one. Exactly. All right, for the Washtenaw County Road Commission agreement. So let me flip through. So the road commission has sent us their proposed list of. Is it not in here? Right.
No. List isn't in here.
Okay. I thought it was gonna be, okay. I mean, it would be nice if we could have it. Did we all receive the original agreement that they had proposed, which included probably like 6 or 7 different projects that were possible for us to choose? So we budgeted 120,000 for roads this year. What did we? I think so. And so when I looked through it, of course, we always want to do the dust control. There's 3 applications of brine. There were a couple proposed road projects that were joint with Lima Township. And I talked to Supervisor Lewick, and he said they want to fund the McKinley Road. And they're also partnering with their on the other side. So McKinley's going to be real nice all the way through from Sylvan Lima over. The other project that was a joint project, the Lima Township is not interested in pursuing right now. So I felt like we should not worry about that one either. I think it was Waltrus Road. And then of the items that were on the list, a couple of them were, piggy bank breakers. A couple of the projects were over 100,000. That would be all of our money. So I went through, and I think Rod kind of came up maybe with a little bit the same list. We would cover the dust control, do the joint project on McKinley, the Garvey Road from Hoppy to Farner, which is 63,800, and forestry operations is trimming the tree canopy so that farmers can drive their farm equipment down these roads. And for the past 3 years, I've had a call from a specific gentleman who cannot take his equipment down because of the canopy. And the road commission only has a couple of the vehicles that are capable of going through and doing this trimming of canopy. So it's not always available. And it doesn't really benefit everyone as much as making the road nice and drivable benefits everyone. So they popped it on this time. They said, hey, we can put you in the rotation. That was $8,900 for forestry operations. So in my mind, I thought if we covered these 4 items, there's our total minus our matching funds, it would be $91,761. We budgeted 120. But we also know that there was the culvert failure on Bush Road at the end of last year that they told us was going to need to be fixed ASAP, and that our portion would be approximately $7,500. They put a patch on it, and I haven't heard, I keep checking with them, they say, oh, we're finally have the approvals because it's by a stream, so they had to go through, you know, MDOT or Eagle, some different, so they're ready. At any rate, I thought, you know, if we're budgeting, if we're spending 92,000 on the roads, we know that 7,500 is still there, that's $100,000. It would be nice to have that 20,000 that's in there for wiggle room, in case another culvert fails, in case any one of these projects can also go over budget. And we faced that before. I think our contract says that they can charge us 10% of anything that's over budget, and with the way things are in prices and who knows what, I think it would be wise for us to think that that could be a possibility. So, having said all that, my recommendation is that we would move to approve the dust control, McKinley Road project, Garvey Road project, and the forestry operations from their list of projects.
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion?
So for the matching funds, why isn't it half of the 38?
Well, the matching funds, so we get a certain amount for the matching funds. It's not half of what we put in. And so that was what they put matching funds for the entire list of projects they put forth to us, which I think was over $300,000. And I said, we can't afford all that. What happens to our matching funds if we dial down some of these projects? And they said, as long as we are investing twice the matching funds, we would get the matching funds. So as long as we're spending 46,780 times 2, those matching funds would come to us.
So with that culvert, we'll be
What's that?
there. With that culvert, then we will be there.
Well, and we would be there anyway, because those 4 items, the dust control, McKinley, Garvey, and forestry comes to 138,000.
I'm sorry.
And our matching funds are 46. So if we had 92, it looks like somewhere around 3,000. So yeah, so those matching funds would be there. That's just a stay. You're welcome. Any other questions? I'm sorry that we don't have the agreement here. I hope everyone knows the items were redacted, right? Okay. All right, so I made a motion, supported by Mr. Branham. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right, I think we might be at the top of the dust control list this year. I think last year we kind of got hit, we started late. I think I heard that from, yeah, it was, so we'll ask when we see if they can get us sooner. All right, lawn maintenance contract. So, time to think about the grass growing. We have 3 quotes here from Salisbury, who is our current group, one from Chelsea Lawn and Snow, and one from Brian Service. Well, is it-
I see Brian Services and the, both Brian Services.
Yeah, an email, but I don't see any numbers from. Oh, you see one from Salisbury and one from Chelsea Lawn and Snow.
Oh, here's another one.
I see 2.
Chelsea Lawn, so Salisbury. So there's the three.
Wait, where's the other one?
Brian Services.
I don't see that.
It came in late, so we got that Friday after the fact.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's.
Okay. I don't think I printed it. I don't, yeah, I should have, but I had so many things, so. Okay.
Brian Services, and then we have Chelsea Long, Snow, and Salisbury.
Can I look at Brian's real quick? Just yours?
Thanks for emailing to them.
Oh, did you?
For some reason, I have two of them. Maybe because you-
That's probably what. So one of the things I was thinking about, and I maybe, Larry, this would, when we were sending these out, we have mowing here, mowing at the cemetery, mowing at the water treatment plant. We also have something on there that we called spring cleanup. And we weren't really specific about what that is. So the quotes we got from that are kind of all over the place. And so I was thinking maybe in the future, maybe we want to be a little more specific about what that is. Because I know that could mean, different things to different people. I was thinking about telling my kids, clean the bathroom. Is that the same thing to them as it is to me? Probably not. So, to be specific, you have to clean the sink, you have to clean the counter. Like, these are the things we need. Because I'd hate for someone to, have misunderstood the assignment or not be clear. And I know, Larry, you have offered to help out a little bit here and there, which we appreciate too, so.
And just to note, I, because Chelsea Lawn Snow was so much lower on the cleanup, I did call and ask him, and this was just for the cemetery only. I said, that does include breaking up the blowing, whatever, method you use, all the leaves, disposing of them, as well as the sticks and everything that came down. Oh, yeah.
I think the concern that Susan had was that he did not come out and look at the cemetery.
Right.
So we were a little nervous about that.
Yeah.
Quoted it without looking at the
Especially if
cemetery.
it's so local.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I like a good deal as much as the next person, but I also appreciate when people are doing a current job and they're doing a pretty good job. Right? I think Salisbury Lawn Care, they've been doing our, at least this, I think a couple years now, 2 years now. And I think there was one time maybe where, Rod, you got in touch with them because it got a little long out here. But I think they've done a good job. And there's, something to honoring that too.
I think it would be to Salisbury. Put it in the middle, I do think they have done a good job.
I wish I knew how far, we knew if this was very far off from, last year or what we budgeted, because.
Prices this year.
Yeah.
Susan said it went up a little, but
A
I
little
would
bit.
expect that with gas prices.
Of course, exactly, everything's going up a little. Oh, outstanding, I didn't think to do that, is that?
What happened to
I know that. I'm not a resident of the township though, so.
You could still mow, you could still mow all the lawns.
Stones throw away, it's a legal stones throw.
Well, could you tell me, and there, like, what was the number for the mowing on, like?
Sure, they were 285 on the cemetery, 145 on the hall, and 105 on the water plant, and 1135 on the
Mhm,
cleanup.
okay. Yeah.
I'm with you, I like a good deal, but man, it's low.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as the mowing, it's only $115 more. Cleanup.
Mhm.
How many mowings did we have last year?
We do it every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Including the cemetery?
Yes.
I agree, Amanda. I would be leaning towards just keeping with Salisbury landscape. I think they've they've done a good job and,
I will make a motion to approve Salisbury Landscape Group on maintenance contract for 2022.
I'll second. It was just getting ready.
you get to do one. Okay, motion by, Clerk Nikki Ballard, supported by Treasurer Branham. Any further discussion? All right, otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Trust and agency fees attributable to the township. That's a difficult way to word that, but I wasn't sure how to word that. So we had, was it in 2019, there was a connection to the water system over here at Venture Testing on US 12, and all of the engineering fees for that project ended up going to the gentleman who owns Venture Testing, although some of those fees were to be paid by the township because they were not directly attributable to his project, and they were fees that he was not willing to cover, and fees that I think Mr. Kosek was supervisor at the time, and I think you guys had talked about, the things that would be covered. So he is Mr. Glinski is covering the attorney fees, all of Carol's time and planning, and the applicable engineering invoices for his project, which are a little over $6,000. I'm going to ask the board tonight if we can have the township pay the invoices that are left. And which I wanted to have the amount. It's falling apart. Oh, thank you. It's falling apart. Okay, thank you very much.
Make a motion that we approve payment of $4,960.50 of the engineering charges attributed to Venture Testing.
Kurt will second.
Thank you. All right, motion by Branham, support by Kosick. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Updated tap fee policy and form. So one of the things with all of this growth that's going on in the township is making sure that we are properly collecting the fees we should. We have a tap fee policy and form in our policy book, but it needs updating and revising. I wanted to have the policy tonight, but I don't. But we do have an updated form that I would like for the board to approve that we will be using going forward. Bob Skull worked on it a little bit. Just updating the old form that we had.
Is the old form the triplicate form?
The old form is, remember when I pulled for our policy book and I said, oh, hey, there's this policy in this form, and we were like, what hadn't been used. So that's the form.
Okay.
But I don't see it here. Am I missing that report packet, or do you
Yeah,
guys?
got it. It's good.
Okay, okay, perfect, good. Oh, no, I'm sorry, here it is. So I wish I had a policy to go with it, but I would like for the board to approve this form tonight so that, starting tomorrow, we can have this and make sure that we're properly documenting. So in the future, we'll be able to find information if we need it.
So Kurt will move to approve the form for Sylvan Township Water and Sewer tap fees.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Post, supported by Brandon. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. One motion carries. Next item is the hiring of a recording secretary for the planning commission.
Like to speak to this, please?
Go
As a
ahead,
member
Sandy.
of the planning commission, so we're without a recording secretary and we legally have to have somebody recording the minutes because it goes to the newspaper and I'm not sure where else, a number of places. There are, and so I would like the board to pay for a secretary, for somebody to record the minutes of the township meeting. Certainly the chair cannot do that. And in discussion that we were having on the planning commission, somebody said, what about the clerk? And I said, no, the clerk has a job already. So I am suggesting that we hire somebody. I'm not sure what rate we should, this would have to be added to the budget. But there was a discussion last year, you know, when we had a few moments where we weren't sure who was going to be taking the meeting minutes as clerk, that we talked about it, but we didn't publish, we didn't do a resolution on it. So I would like to suggest that we make an amendment to the budget and do a resolution to hire a recording secretary for the planning commission.
At the rate of,
Pardon me?
at the rate of.
That's the tricky
That's the
part.
hard one.
That's the hard part. Right. And so
Whatever
up
the going
until-
rate is. And I also looked online, there's a million tutorials on how to take notes. And ideally, you want to record any motions, any suggestions of activity that you're going to do. It needs to be somebody who can pay attention. And one of the tutorials I looked at today said, do not take notes on a computer. That you need to take notes on pen and paper and leave a big space between the topic. Maybe you have the agenda and you have a big space after, because people talk and talk and you will write it down and then they're going to jump down to this other thing and then they're going to come back. And that's why using a computer is not the best.
Would
Yeah,
like maybe $25 an hour be reasonable?
you know, it might be. I don't know. Rod just suggested maybe $25 an hour would be a going rate. I mean, we could start there. I'm not sure, you
I
know.
think that's fine. We
Yeah.
said it's not a ton of work, but it's some work.
Right,
And it's a legal document this person is preparing that goes to the newspaper. So
right.
I don't
right.
foresee it being more than 3 hours, probably, including.
Well, it's hard to say. So minutes there is a minimum that's required to be in the minutes, and you have to have the planning commission like we are. We're all under the Open Meetings Act, and that requires that someone's writing minutes and those minutes are available to the public.
Right.
So someone has to take them.
Right.
Traditionally, it's been somebody on the board. And Dawn Capeless, who was the secretary up until recently, set the bar really high, really high. She did so much information in there, and I feel like that may be a little intimidating for other people now to step up now that she's not doing it. But I wanted to remind people, as Sandy said, you must include motions, you must include the time, place of the meeting. There are certain minimum requirements of the meeting. If you have a public hearing, it's different. You really have to capture what everyone says. And honestly, the planning commission has more public hearings than we do. I mean, every kind, they have a lot of public, so it's a big job. And I think we were paying the secretary $10 extra a meeting. So it's the same thing on the zoning board of appeals. They have a secretary as well, and it's the same thing. So I think, and other people have mentioned to me while I was clerk, like how do you participate in the meeting and also take notes? It's really difficult. And I was telling Amanda, when I hear a thing, I will make sure it's in the minutes. I look at the recorder, I write down, okay, we're an hour and 17 minutes in the meeting. It's, I don't know how many times, if it's a 2-hour meeting, it may be a 4-hour job.
right.
Because then you're, taking that information, you're taking it down, you're editing it, So it's a big job. It's an important job. We must have it. So, failing anybody on planning commission wanting to do that, which I understand, and maybe we can free up Amanda a little bit at some point too, if it's someone that would
He
be.
asked the members of the planning commission if anybody wanted to do it, and they said no.
Yeah.
He did suggest me, and I said, I can't even hear you, I
Yeah.
can't hear that person at the end. so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
Can't be me.
Right.
So I think bringing somebody from the outside to do this would be
Mhm.
the smartest thing for us to do.
Right. Well, I don't have any, opposition to that. I don't think it's gonna be a lot of money, and it would be a real relieve a burden from someone, over there on the planning commission. But I don't know, it's not as though we're gonna snap our fingers and the person's gonna show up tomorrow.
Right.
So we can put it in the paper, you can,
Right.
read a horse for water, but we can do our best, and
Yeah.
in the meantime, we'll just have to be what it will be, and I think
Right.
there's sort of multiple people
Yeah.
leading that charge, but someone on the planning commission will have to be the secretary in position, but not necessarily, take the
actual.
minutes. We can have, right.
Start somewhere. Well, I'll make a motion that we look for someone as the recording secretary for the planning commission at the rate of $25 per hour. Maybe not to exceed 4 hours per week. Is that reasonable? Or double the time of meeting?
Well, that's not a bad double the time. If it's a 3-hour meeting,
And
then
they've got 3
then
hours.
they've got 3 hours to.
I'll second that.
By Sandy, all right, we have a discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. All right, lastly on here, I have the discussion of ARPA funds. So these are the funds that we're receiving for the COVID, the American Rescue Plan funds. And we're receiving a little over $300,000 here in Sylvan Township. And they have loosened the restrictions of things that we can spend it on. We have received half right now. We're going to see the other half next summer. We must earmark the monies by 2024. We must spend the monies by 2026. So we have time. There is a reporting, the very first reporting for this, these funds, they want us to check and periodically report on what we spent those funds on. The first reporting is due at the end of April. We won't at that point have anything to report, but we will have to go into the Treasury website and make an appearance and say, we're checking in, we haven't spent any of the funds. But I think it's maybe, would the board be interested in having a special meeting to talk about ARPA funds, what we have, what we might want to think about spending it on?
Work session.
Yeah,
I think that might be a good idea because each one with ideas or something.
mhm, right. So, yeah,
Otherwise, I mean, we have the potential of doing something pretty big. Well, kind of big. But if we don't, then we'll just whittle it away,
yeah,
a little here and a little there.
Well, I mean, here we are looking at updating the system. We had asked them about fire chief.
that's
I
correct.
think Supervisor Milliken Lima thought that we would use ARPA funds for that McKinley project. I don't think he understood our regular budget.
Oh, that's
monies.
because I spoke to Mr. Lueck and I told him if we were, I said, well, this is what it's on our agreement. And so, oh, that's interesting. And I have heard from other people too. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I think a lot of people think, we have to get this money earmarked and we have to figure out where we're going to spend it right away. And I have attended 2 or 3, 4 webinars on this, and that is not my takeaway. We have time to figure out, but it's let's think about what things we might want to use. Like I said, we have half of it now, which is like about 156,000. The rest will come next year. We cannot use it on debt. you know, there are still some things that we can't use it for, but it's pretty wide open. I feel like we're kind of making some big moves right now, talking about dissolving the water sewer authority. Do we need any, you know, help there? So yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Touch over 300,000.
Right. But it's not all there yet. We only have half right. Yep. All right, well, do you want me to circle back to you guys, or while we're here with our phones and our calendars, do you want to look at like a time, maybe, I don't know, a couple weeks or?
Are you talking about April?
Yeah, we could do April or May. I mean, there's no hurry. I just, you know, I feel like I'm hearing other townships talking about it, and I've gone to these webinars and I want to share, so there's no real urgency.
How about
April's-
May?
Okay. So our meeting is the 3rd, a regular board meeting. And that, we don't have to stay on a Tuesday. Do you want to say May 17th? That would be 2 weeks after our, you know, 2 weeks. Yeah, that's like a month from now.
What date did you say?
May 17th. It's a Tuesday.
That's fine.
Keep 7 o'clock. Enjoy Tuesday at 7 o'clock. May 17th. Right. Perfect. We got a lot of time, but you can get a special meeting notice up for that. And, I'll remind us all of that too, so good. Okay. All right, well, we didn't add anything to the agenda, so that concludes the agenda portion of our meeting, and we're back around the public comment. Public left. Hi, Patrick.
I was listening to the presentation about the pipeline and the other comments from Elizabeth as well. And the proposal to try to get consumers to honor the ordinance. I'm not a lawyer either. I don't know what the prospects are if they want to honor the ordinances, especially the one that says that the new pipeline has to be adjacent to the current one, which would be very difficult for them to do. But that's what a lawyer is. Consumers are not going to be nice. They're going to do whatever they say. But the other aspect of it, which you mentioned, is the fact that consumers is not negotiating fairly with the property owner. Apparently, they're offering kind of a business, what they want, and they don't have easements. I think my understanding correctly, they don't have easements on all these properties yet. But they either have to come to an agreement with the property owner, or they have to get the government to seize it by eminent domain. And who knows what the compensation would be for that. I don't think the township can intervene directly in the negotiations to the project. Can they? Okay. No, I think we can't. The township has done that. But looking down the road, if consumers refuses the proposal that you're making to them to comply with the ordinances, and if we're not able to enforce that for some reason, then it seems like the residents have got to get some legal assistance to figure out how to at least get a fair negotiation. If that's possible. I know eminent domain is being abused in a lot of places now, so maybe there's not a lot of leverage there, but no, if residents can act like they're playing hardball, at least they might get a better deal. Nobody really wants a legal matter. I feel really bad about Andy Forest trees. But the bottom line of all this stuff is if this stuff was negotiated fairly, yes, it would probably raise the price of gas, right? But somebody is bearing the cost of this. Are we all bearing the cost of it by paying our gas bills higher? Or are they going to take it out on those few residents that the pipeline has to run through and make them bear a higher cost in loss of their property? Right? It seems like the fair thing to do is to compensate people for what it costs, and then consumers will make a better decision about where to route their pipeline. And we'll pay a just cost for our gas or electric. So I don't know if there's any, I know I've probably gone over my 3 minutes, but I don't know if there's any effort to research the legal aspects of the negotiation for compensation or eminent domain, but probably there should be, because that could be coming at us sooner than we think.
Short answer, we're doing that too, but that shouldn't preclude the township and vice versa.
That's right. It's kind of in parallel.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You have your job to do, we have what we can maybe do, and we'll, but right, parallel, I like that idea of parallel actions that we're taking. Okay, so, yes, Mr. Galvin.
Mr. Kennedy, I just have one question, and we don't have to come up with the answer right now. I have a question about who my neighbor is on the east side. I believe it's the Westchester Development Company that owns everything east of my property. And I'd like to get a contact name. Who would I talk to here at the offices to get that name?
So I'd be happy to give that to you, but I will also give you Carol Konitsky. Her card is out there. She's our zoning administrator. She's our planner too. She
Okay.
has the credentials to do planning, so she does a little bit of that. She's really the person who's in the
She
know
would
about
know
the
who
developments.
owns that property that I could contact.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so what, I mean, Westchester is Norfolk Homes. Right. So Sean Lafleur is somebody that deals with us, and I'd be happy to, share his email.
He has a foreman that's over the project also.
Is it, I just met him today, his name starts with an H.
so
I just saw
is a
that.
telephone call or an email more preferable to you? I mean, I'll get her card,
Yeah,
email her.
email is really best, because it's, but I'm here, I'm there. Email I can look at home at night too, and I feel like when we're here during the day, this is a whole other agenda item, but boy, we are slammed over here right now, you guys. I spend my whole day in meetings, in this and that, and then I look at the clock and it's time to go, and there's no time to follow up from the meetings or document anything. So anyway, email is just preferable because I can see that any time of day.
And remind me her name again.
Carol Konitsky.
It's
It's got a C and a Z and a K. Yeah, we'll make sure you get
Right here on
one.
the TV.
And she would also know.
Oh, yeah, she is right there.
She is on the meetings.
She's on the meeting. I need Zoom from home.
I know. Gary Galvin will contact you.
Gary
She
Galvin will
can
be
also help me
contacting
with
you.
if I have any driveway questions, because that would fall under zoning, right?
Probably, yeah, probably zoning. Probably, that'd be a good place to start. Carol will, if not her, she's even capable of pointing in the right direction.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah, no problem. All right, any other public comment? Board of Trustee member comments.
I have 3 things.
Oh, Sandy, okay.
So, and 2 of them are about positions. And one of them was, so we put in the budget, that we're gonna pay Rod for the Zoom meeting for his time. Like, he's not on the planning commission, but he sets up and runs the Zoom meetings, and he's not being paid for this. And it's not part of his statutory duties to do this. And I'm sure this will never happen, but should the Michigan Board of Labor ever comes to look at what we're doing, there are people doing things that are not in their job description they were hired for, and they're not being paid for it. So I'm not sure what the next step is. So we have money budgeted, I think. And so do I need to make a motion that we start paying Rod? But he's not been paid yet. and he
Yeah,
cannot be
probably.
paid- He cannot be paid retrospectively. He can't be paid
Right. And, right,
for things that he's already done. So I would like to see us start doing this. So
So what would that rate be? What would we be
I
paying?
think $25 an hour is fine.
$25 an hour
Yeah.
for, okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we start paying Rod at the rate of $25 an hour for meetings that where he sets up and runs the Zoom meetings, where he's not a member. Like the planning commission, do the ZBA.
Anything.
Right, for those meetings of which he's not a member of that group.
Mhm. Mhm.
I will support that. Perfect.
All right, any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. None, okay, 4 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstain. Okay, so motion carries, and I want to say, Sandy, I'm appreciative that you're bringing this up, because this is exactly how the township burns people out. Because I was cemetery sexton for 8 years and never made a dime for it. And I did it because it was just part of the thing that you do, but you turn around and all of a sudden there's 8 other things that you're doing that aren't part of it. And, you know, and it's great that people are willing to take those things on, but then they pile up and people reach a point, and I could go through names in the past 2 or 3 years that we've burned out. Because we just don't, and part of the problem is we're running this township the way that it ran 20, 30 years ago. And this township is not the same township that was that long ago. We need help. And when we don't do things right, they bite us down the road. And so
Yes.
part of the concern is making sure all these developments are coming in. We talked at one time about having a project manager that we were going to pay $25 an hour to help manage these projects and make sure that the developers. Well, we don't have anybody in that position right now. So either that means those things aren't getting done, or they're getting done by someone who's not being compensated for it. And it's partly me, and it's a lot Carol. We're really, it's, you know, we want to do the best for the township. But there does come a point where you say, man, I got a family, I got kids, I'm up here working all these hours and I'm making a set salary amount that was set really 20 years ago and maybe has kept pace with rate of inflation if I'm lucky. So I feel like everybody up here on the board, especially Kurt, having spent some time in the supervisor's office, you know, Sandy coming in, I think people on the board see and realize this. And I want to make a plea to you and the residents to help us. You know, I'm not asking for a whole lot of extra monies or funds, but we need to do something because the current structure we have right now makes me concerned that we need to be tight and make sure we don't want to get taken advantage of these developers. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening. So I'm just mentioning it out loud. Maybe this is something, you know, we can talk about in the coming months, expanding hours, hiring someone, hiring an office manager, hiring somebody in the project manager position. So I'm not, you know, Carol's not trying to, Carol's got things to do too. So anyway,
Why
I'm
don't
sorry.
we just talk about it right now and not months down the road? Because there's always a million things that fall on the plate and it's not going to get done.
When I came on board in 2012, this township now is nothing like that. Nothing. This township is booming more than we could have ever imagined. And the work just keeps pouring in.
Right.
Kurt's been there since 2012 also, and I know he's seen the difference in the township.
I came in at 2013 in the receptionist chair,
Yeah.
oddly enough. But yeah,
We put in a lot of hours. It's no doubt about it.
it's a lot of hours. And, you know, nothing gets less complicated. Elections, not getting any less complicated. So much, you know, and so it's more requirements too. And then the more people we bring in, the more taxes to be paid, the more voters to accommodate, the more complaint calls for me to receive, or just the more, it's more. So I think we're really burgeoning, and we're at a point right now where we need to make sure we're being good stewards of your money and your time and the resources, and that doesn't, these aren't volunteer positions. You don't want them to be volunteer positions. You want to make sure you have good and capable people who are doing it, and the way we get them and retain them is by making sure that we are taking good care of them.
And you go to help out, just pick up something extra once in a while, and before you know it, you've got 10 something extras
Right.
piled on your plate. You know, and
Don't look at Larry.
some of them may be little things, but all those little things add up quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of little things that I take care of around here.
Right.
There's a lot of little things that everybody takes care of. But it's
Right.
never seen by anyone. It's all in the background.
So I think we should I think we should seriously think about adding an office manager and a project manager. And maybe by our next meeting, we come up with a job description, because I don't actually work here.
Mhm.
I can't guess what
Mhm.
a job description would be.
Mhm.
But you guys work here, so you
Mhm.
see what happens every day, and you know what needs to be done that you're doing that you should not be doing.
Mhm.
So
Right.
can I ask for a job description to come?
We may have a job description for the project manager, because it was one that we filled already, so that
Alright.
might be ready to go.
Okay,
The office manager, I think we could put together. I think Linden Township has an office
Oh, there
manager,
you
so we
go.
could take it from them. The
yes.
other thing Linden Township offers is extended hours. You know, and
Ah.
we put on the door 9 to noon, but I'll tell you, I don't think
Ah.
anybody that's sitting at this table is out of here at noon. We were here till 2, you know, so sometimes I wonder, is the answer more people? Is the answer extended hours? You know, more, like in Linden Township, they have an office manager, she's there. Even if the supervisor, maybe the
Right.
treasurer isn't, she's there to receive something. A person you can see if you need to come to the township
Right.
hall for something. She can't do everything, but
No.
she can make sure your document gets to the right place or
Right.
assist in some way.
Right,
And that would be nice too, because man, I hear from you guys all the time about our limited hours, 9 to noon, I can't get up from 9 to noon. So I think, you know, there's a discussion to be had there. Is the answer adding more people into our 3-hour day, or is the answer maybe part of that and also expanding those office hours?
well,
And
if
then-
you're going to, and there are, I mean, I just recently retired, so I could never have come here during the time that you're open. So I think extending hours is very thoughtful, but that's just gonna create more work. And if you don't have more people, you're just gonna all burn up, just going to like burst into flames in front of us. So
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with adding additional staff. Like you said, since like the beginning of time, there have just been this number of people.
Right.
But there is more and more work.
But we don't have a ton of space for more people is the other thing. We've got one office, maybe we got 2 people in there right now. We could maybe cram another one in there. And we have the old police state room
Yeah,
that we could use, but it's storage, and that's a nice secondary conference room if somebody's in here doing something and somebody comes in. So, you know, there's that too.
we budgeted for these positions.
We have not budgeted for these positions.
And we've always said that anyone can make an appointment. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, I don't know about the rest of them, but my cell phone is out there everywhere. And I get calls all the time. It doesn't matter, you know, and I don't mind it, you know, because I'm here for you guys. I was elected by you guys and I'm here to serve you guys, but. So.
It gets to everything because there's that level of diminishing returns. Where you just have too much to do. I mean, previously I lived. I moved to Sylvan Township in the 70s, but then I moved. When I got employed at St. Joe in Ypsilanti, I moved to Ypsilanti. I was a member of city council there. And of course, there's a much bigger population. It's like over 20,000. So they have staff, they have several attorneys, they have people doing all the jobs that need to be done. You don't have a few people doing that same number of jobs. The same thing exists between the city and township as far as how the work gets done, and there just are not enough people here.
Mhm. Right. Something, yeah, something needs to change.
Yes.
Right, right. All right, well, I mean, do we have any more discussion? We could also
I have one
continue
more
this
thing. I have
discussion.
one more thing.
I won't go on without you. But we could, I want to say real quick that we could also discuss this at our special meeting,
Okay,
right? Okay,
sure.
all right, Sandy, so that was one. You said you had three. What else?
No, the office manager was 2.
Oh, okay.
And so, so Sylvan Township is going to get from the Community Development Block Grant, that's CDGB. It's actually HUD money. We get about $4,000 a year. That's just free money to us. However, it's really hard for us to use because it comes from HUD. So therefore, it's earmarked for communities that have low to moderate income, and we just don't make that cut. But so I sent them like a grant thing and asking that we can save our $4,000 a year for 5 years, and then use that money to make upgrades to ADA in a building. If we need a crosswalk somewhere in Sylvan Township, the funds can only be used for ADA projects, and we have 5 years to figure out what that's going to be.
We actually do have a couple of hardship cases in the township also.
It doesn't show up on the census,
Probably not. But we have.
but you know, there's other things that are available, and one that is coming up, I think it is next year, and people who meet the income criteria, if they have exceptionally high water utility bills, they can apply for it. And then there's also, and I think there's a flyer out here about anybody who is renting and is going to be displaced. You know, because they were not working and couldn't pay their rent during COVID. There's money to cover that as well. And there's a brochure about that up there.
That's available for the county.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I appreciate you keeping tabs on that money so it doesn't just slip away.
Right.
Is it anything that we could use to, for the building here? Like
To the building?
to do like handicap accessible?
Oh, absolutely. That's
Okay,
what that is.
yeah, okay. I didn't know if it was like for, you know, like for,
No.
or if this would qualify too, because
We'll have to have somebody come walk through and they'll tell
Right,
us what
right.
needs to be upgraded.
exactly.
And it could be the bathrooms. Could be
That's
the
what I'm
drinking
thinking of,
fountains,
is
could
the
be
door panel
everything.
for, right, right. That's exactly what I was thinking of,
And I know the motors that have to be replaced on that
on
front
that
door
front door. Yeah,
sooner rather than later.
yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds pretty bad,
I'm not really sure what's going on in there. but
right?
It's a gear.
Which thing are you talking about?
The door that opens and closes.
Yeah.
The motor that opens and closes the front door automatically.
Right.
Even when you push the button, you get 2 big pops as it's opening
Yeah, it sounds bad.
every.
Did you have
time.
something to suggest?
Only connecting dots between your wanting to hire folks to do transcription, which is an ADA covered service,
Oh,
and
interesting,
your comment that we hadn't budgeted yet
right,
for those positions. I think you found your budget.
No, no.
no,
The rules around using any money that comes from HUD are just so hard and fast.
Mm.
And I've already submitted it to make upgrades to the township, whatever we find in the township.
The transcripts doesn't.
No,
no.
no. Good
Good
thing
idea,
though. No.
We like your way of thinking.
That's right. You will be hired before you know.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Larry's.
And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Anybody else? Any other board? trustee? All right, I got a supervisor report in this time, so I think I said everything I need to say there, so. Seeing no other items, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, move to adjourn at 9:07 by Branham, supported by Kosick. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay, hearing none, motion carries. Thanks, guys.